All right, Arizona State has officially announced Kenny Dillingham as the school's next head coach. Why is this significant? Well, in addition to becoming the youngest head coach in the Power Five, he replaces Herm Edwards, who is one of the oldest coaches in the Power Five, I might add. So a complete overcorrection now, as they now are going to put the reins of this program there with Kenny Dillingham. At 32 years old, he's well-traveled. He's been around. He's considered an offensive savant, well-trained under Mike Norvell, well-trained under Gus Malzahn, knows how to not just run the football, but also create a balanced attack by using tempo and put tremendous stress on opposing defenses. I think this is a good hire in a few different boxes that needed to be checked at Arizona State. One, they had to completely distance themselves from the previous regime. Everybody that was in the previous regime, gone. See ya. Got to get rid of them all. Clean house. Have to. I think they should have gone a little further in that regard, but that's a conversation for a different day. All right. Kenny Dillingham knows what the program's supposed to look like. He graduated in 2012 from Arizona State. He's from Arizona. He's a former high school coach at Arizona, and he started his college career as an offensive assistant back in 2014. That, remember, in 2014, Arizona State was pretty dang good. Really one of those, that stretch there, 2014, 2015, in that range, Arizona State was probably the best they've been in quite a while. I remember a game against Notre Dame where they gave them all they wanted. That was Todd Graham, of course, and Mike Norvell was the OC at that point. So look, he knows what it looks like when they're good. So that is a box that needed to be checked. Two, I think a relationship now in the state of Arizona is very important. Look at some of the great players that have come out of Arizona in recent years that decided to go elsewhere. Some of the guys, maybe in particular, Bijan Robinson, come to mind. He decided to, of course, play his college football at Texas. Well, think about if he would have been a Sun Devil, what kind of difference that would have made on the program. There's a handful of guys, too, there that play at a really high level of football there in the greater Phoenix area. That has kind of become a bit of a hotbed. Now, problem is everyone's recruiting it. You get all the Texas schools that go out there. Some of the California schools go out there. You have everybody. It's no longer a secret. So it's very important for the head coach, like Kenny Dillingham, to have great feel and understanding for the terrain that sits around the greater Tempe area. You can get up into Scottsdale, get down into some of those high schools. You have some really good high school football being played there in Arizona. I also think another thing that's important at Arizona State, I think it's important to differentiate yourself when trying to create an exciting product. It's a pro sports town. No one's denying that. Like, they like the Sun Devils for sure, but it's a good sports town. It's not a great sports town. I'm fairly familiar. My parents lived in Scottsdale for the better part of 5 years and change. So I'm fairly familiar with the terrain. It's a good sports town. It's not a great sports town. So creating a really exciting product to where you can become front page entertainment, I think is really important. And if you have an offense that might score 50 plus a game, it's a pretty good place to start. Now, Kenny Dillingham will have his hands full, I think, when it comes to trying to figure out balance, because his offense is not always going to be great for his defense. He doesn't play a complementary style. That's not who he is. He wants to ramp up the tempo. He wants to score a bunch of points. He wants to put pressure on the opposing offense by forcing them to match them point for point. That works. Sometimes. Doesn't work all the time, because sometimes the team you're playing against has similar firepower. Either way, I think this will provide a spark to the offense that has been missing for the last couple of years at Arizona State. And then remember, Arizona State too, they won games in Herm Edwards' tenure, but it wasn't always pretty. They kind of were like a boa constrictor at times where they won games, but it was kind of ugly. I mean, I can remember calling a game against Washington. I remember calling a game against Michigan State. Those were two of Herm Edwards' signature victories in the last handful of years. And yet I think they won a couple of them like 17-10. It wasn't pretty performances by any stretch. Kenny Dillingham, they might win those games, but it might be more like 49-45. So it'll be an exciting brand of football. And then finally, the big aspect of this, Kenny Dillingham is an established name as far as offensive minds are concerned. So can he become an attractive player in the transfer portal? All he has to do is point to Bo Nix and say, look what I did with Bo Nix last year. I think you should consider Arizona State. And tell me there isn't a quarterback prospect out there that wouldn't possibly salivate at the opportunity at playing in an offense that is very quarterback friendly, and to do so at a place that is always going to be playing in like perfect weather. Right? You're never going to have to play in a place where it's sleeting, snowing, raining sideways, or anything like that. You get to showcase your ability in pristine conditions on a week-to-week basis. Yeah, it'll be hot in September, but it's a dry heat, right? If you can't handle that, maybe Arizona State's not the place for you anyways. But I really think, I'd say that all a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but not really. You know what I mean? Like, quarterbacks want to play in a dome, all right? There's a reason for that. Quarterbacks want to play in nice conditions. There's a reason why they play the Super Bowl in nice conditions, with the exception of the ridiculous Super Bowl that they played in New York, okay? Conversation for a different day. But when you look at Arizona State, I think it's a place where you can win and you can win big. But for whatever reason, the school has just never been able to provide a consistent winner. I don't know why that is. I haven't quite been able to put my fingers on as to why. It's almost like they commit and then they pull back. They commit and then they pull back. They commit and then they pull back. It's almost like a constant tug of war. For moments, you feel like they're going to break through, and then they have a year in which they're 3-9. Then you have moments where like, oh man, this team's starting to figure it out. Look at their recruiting trajectory. Look at where they're going. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of guys decommit late in the process. They decide to go elsewhere. It just, for whatever reason, they haven't been able to figure it all out. But this always has felt like a place where you could win and win big. Now, are you ever going to be able to challenge the likes of USC on a consistent basis? The answer is no. But now with USC heading to the Big Ten, the Pac-12 is as gettable as it's been, I think, in quite a while. Yes, Utah's great. Yes, Arizona's improving. Yes, Oregon's legit. Yes, Washington doesn't appear to be going anywhere. Yes, Washington State will always be a difficult team to play. Maybe Colorado nails their coaching hire and they become a problem yet again. But right now, it's anybody's guess as to what the pecking order is going to be in the Pac-12 in the years to come, or the Pac-10, whatever they end up calling it. Stanford, who knows? Cal, who knows? But right now, Arizona State, I think their ceiling is really high. And if Dillingham can be an attractive destination for guys in the portal that are looking to play in an offense that will allow them to compile numbers and really kind of play in what would be a very fun offense to play in, I think he can probably get this thing going sooner than you think. Jed Fish has done a good job at Arizona, really invigorating the fan base. I think Kenny Dillingham will do a very similar job at Arizona State, getting everybody involved, and I expect the product to be exciting here sooner than later.